Alright, part 3 of the fitness hybrid bike. What we're going to do is reassemble the drivetrain now. So we have the bearing already set here with the grease, and then I've done the same thing on the cone side. So we're going to put this in, and then this slides on this. I'm going to add a little grease here. Just so the threads come off easier later. Alright, and with any cone system, bearing cone system I should say, you want to get it to where it's still moving. Need my rag. But to where there's no play either. So I'm going to back this out a little. Try to back it out. Should probably just get the wrench. No play. It's moving smoothly. Tighten it just a little more here. And we'll put the lock ring on it. Alright, so I got the lock ring. I'm going to install that here. And what we want to do is we want to hold the lock ring with the lock ring tool, but then use our adjustable wrench to hold the bearing cup in place. So try not to block the camera here, but I think I will anyways. Let's see if I can get in to do it. Tighten that down. Okay, there's no play and it's moving smoothly. Alright, now that we have that back on, what we're going to do is install the pedal. So this is the non-drive side, so this is the side that doesn't have the gears. We're going to put it straight on here. And then we're going to tighten it down with the nut here, or bolt I should say. So I'm going to add a little bit of grease just so that it comes out easier next time for whoever needs to do this. I believe you're supposed to use Loctite. Don't have any Loctite, and I've honestly never had any issues with this. So I'm going to just keep doing this. Probably see this at a later date and go, what was I thinking? I need to put Loctite. I'm going to get this tightened down. We'll torque it later, but just hand tight right now is good. Show it here. And I'm going to flip the bike around because we'll need to do the rest of the work on the other side anyways, with the chain and with the gears. Okay, flip the bike around, so now we're going to do this side. Right, now that we have all this back together, spinning nice and smoothly, I'm going to install the front derailleur again. So this piece here is a little spacer. This spacer helps it fit more snugly. I'm going to get it about where it needs to be, and then just start loosely putting it together so I can make more final adjustments with the actual wrench here. So when it comes to the front derailleur, you want it to be on the same plane, so this way with your gears, but then also the height needs to be just a few millimeters above the largest cog. This should work here just fine. Let me get it straightened out again, and then we'll tighten it up. So again, we'll torque this down later, but right now that looks pretty good. And now we'll reinstall the rear, and we'll check the hanger to make sure that it's still where it needs to be and aligned before we start putting more of the bike back together. So this looks good. All right, so I reinstalled the rear wheel, and I opted to put a new freewheel on just because the old one was just too far gone. We're gonna use this tool here to align the hanger. This hanger is made of a softer metal than the frame, so that if you're in a crash or if you drop your bike bad, the hanger will break or bend, not the frame. So sometimes what happens is that it can still just get slightly bent. And so what we're gonna do is install this and then check the hanger, and if necessary we're going to bend it back to where it needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the valve stem around. So I'm going to get this set so it is touching it here, so just touching the rim right here, and then I'm going to follow the valve stem up, and from here you can't see it but there's a gap, so I'm going to slightly bend it over. I'm going to follow it down here. It's a little too far. And pull it back slightly. So it's looking better. Slight bend there. Take this out just so I can bend it a little more. And that looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is reinstall the rear derailleur. Alright, I'm going to put this on there. Not much to this. There's a little clip or notch, you should say, that sits up here on the hanger. Again, I'm going to hand tighten and then we'll do the actual tightening later. Visually, it looks good. Limits look good right now, just by eyeing it. So we'll check it more later, but that's essentially that. Now what we'll do is we'll put the headset back together. Alright, so now we're going to put the stem back together. What I've already done is I've greased the bearing here on the fork, just to show it there. I've done the same thing up here, and I've started to put the spacers back together. So I'm just going to push this back in. Have that ready. I'm going to put the stem on. I guess it would help to have it in the right orientation. Just enough to hold it on, and then we will straighten it later. Right now it looks okay. And just like all the other bolts, we will do the proper torque setting as one of our final steps here. So that seems good. Last step is this. Don't know why they put this other spacer on the top. Honestly, I didn't think it really needs it. It would have worked fine the way it was. But we'll just leave it the way we found it. And then while we're up here, we'll reinstall the bars. So again, just to double check it, it's moving smoothly. There's no play, so it feels nice and snug. Alright, so I got the bars reattached. Didn't really miss much there. Just slid it through and then tightened it. So now what I'm going to do is install the trigger shifters. I'm just going to loosely fit these on because I want to gauge where the grips are going to go. So these are a nice silicone grip. It's going to be really tough to put them on. So one thing you can do is to just put a little bit of rubbing alcohol. You could use your actual lubricant if you wanted to. I like using the alcohol because it's pretty cheap and easy to apply. So I'm just going to work this on there. And we're almost to the end, so That's there, and there's actually an end that I'll put on. So I'm going to get this set. Probably going to want to angle it slightly down. Trying to get a feel for where it's going to make most sense. So probably somewhere right here. And then we'll get this tightened down. Alright, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Alright, we got the front all buttoned up here. Put the shifters back on. We'll reattach the brake cables. For now, since we're up here, what we'll do is we'll install the brake levers. I don't have the brake noodles. I had to order them. They should be here, I think, tomorrow or the next day. So we'll put those on. We can actually plumb up the derailleurs and test that out along with the chain, so we can make some more progress. I don't think we're going to be able to wrap it up today, but for the most part, it's looking good. All right, in the last series, I mentioned that there are different adjusters here. So these 3 holes are going to control the main tension on your brake arms, and then the actual arms itself have these little screws where you can make more tension adjustments, which really just help move the brake pads slightly in more or out depending on the alignment. So I'm going to get the grease gun. We're going to put some grease around here. That's going to help it move around smoothly, and then we'll install it. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of grease here. Same thing on this side. And then what I'm going to do is loosen the pads here because I want to put them all the way to the highest setting. This is my preference. I like having this much resistance. I also checked the trigger shifter up here. The spring on the brake itself is a little, I don't know how to explain it. There's not enough tension on it. It really doesn't want to spring back the way I want it to. So to compensate for that, what I'm gonna do is just make these a bit tighter, which is why I put it on the highest setting here. Just gonna get this tightened up. Again, we'll go through with the torque wrench later and we'll make sure everything's set right. So I'm just gonna turn this so that we can keep this up here. So that's fine, and then we'll just see how springy it is. A lot of movement, or a lot of pushback, I should say. So we'll do the same thing on the next side, and then we'll do the back as well. All right, so we got the bike mostly put back together. Here's the front end, the brake levers, the shifters and everything. Put the back brake levers on as well. Now what we're gonna do is install the chain. We need to install the chain because in order to tune it and to really do the cables and everything properly, we need to have the chain there to help us guide. So I'm gonna set this down and I'm gonna install the chain. I did this on the last series as well. The difference now is that this chain has a rivet. Let me get it all set up here and I'll show you. Whereas the other chain had a master link. So this is the other style. So it comes with a rivet set to be pushed in, and then that'll marry up with this end here. You have to size it. So what that means is that we have to find the proper length, cut it to where we'll have an inner link left here so that we can join it into the outer. We'll drive the pin and then we'll have the chain installed. So the method I like to use is the largest cog in the back, which is your lowest gear, and then your largest cog in the front, which is your highest gear, and then you count 2 over from where that marries up on an inner link. So I know there's a bunch of different methods. This is the method I prefer because it's the one that I learned how to do first. You can also do the lowest and just make sure that your cage has movement. Not my style again, I just didn't learn that way and I prefer this, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna get this all set up here. And the tools you need are going to be the chain breaker tool. So instead of using the pin to break the chain, we're going to use this pin to actually set the chain together, and then a Sharpie, just so we know where to cut it. All right, so I had to redo the camera here just so I could show you. What I'm going to do is pull this back So I have the chain set on the largest cog up front. Want to make sure it's seated. Same thing in the back. I know you can't see it. I'm going to just readjust it here. So I'm going to get all that set. And then I'm going to pull the chain forward. And I'm trying to line it up again so that I can get an inner link to match up here so that it'll fit in. So it hits here. So I'm going to count 1, 2. So again, 1, 2. I'm going to mark it because this is the one I'm going to want to cut. And pull that down. All right, so I have the chain down. Now what I'm going to do is put the link that I want to cut, or the rivet I want to push out, into the chain cutter. Pull this back up here so you can see. It'd help if I had it set right. Trying to juggle all this is not as easy as I thought it would be. Okay, so I have it up there. Now I'm going to drive it out. Okay, so that pop was it leaving the other side. Let me pull this back here again. I know some of it's off camera, but now we have it sized. I'm going to reinstall it, this time weaving it through the derailleurs, and then we'll drive the rivet, and then the chain will be installed. All right, so I have the chain all set up here. There's a little wire piece that comes with, or at least it came with mine, the chain breaker. And what that's going to do is hold it so that you can actually get the tool in and drive the rivet. So this rivet is going to go through, and this is what's joining it. So I'm going to get this set up here. I have to back this out a little more. And then again, hopefully I'm not blocking it. Probably am. But get this set. So it's going to push through, and it's going to be pretty easy. Then there's going to be a little bit of resistance, and that's when it's meeting the other side. And then back it out a little bit. I'm going to check this side. All right, so in filming, I actually messed up the back plate and the rivet didn't set. So what I've done since then, let me rearrange here, is I've just taken off that link completely, and we're just going to use a master link connector. So not ideal, but I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes these things happen. It's unfortunate, but it is what we're going to have to do in this case to get the chain to work. It's a really nice chain. I don't want to have to throw it away or anything over one little link. So we'll get that all set here. And of course, now this is stuck. And then of course, the one master link I had chosen was a little defective. So I gotta set that aside, not use it. Just my luck. It's supposed to be a straightforward operation. And it's been a little more difficult, but you know, sometimes that happens. So I'm gonna get this set. I have my chain pliers here. Okay, it's all set. Chain is now installed, and what we'll do now is put on the shift cables, get it tuned up, and then once the brake noodles come in, we'll do the brakes.